Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. It is episode number 314, and in this episode, we're here once again to look back at the week that was in this 2025 NFL season. This past week being week number 16, as the playoff race continues to heat up, and for some teams, the race to Cancun and the race to Pittsburgh for the NFL draft coming in April. So a lot of season, and I mean a lot to decide on, either the race to Cancun or the race to the playoffs. So 3 weeks left to go in this regular season, as January nears, and so does Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, what holiday you're celebrating. But the here and now is looking back at week number 16 in this 2025 campaign. That's what we're going to be discussing here in this episode. And yeah, with that further ado, let's get right into it. So week 16 is a big slate on our hands, and on paper is going to look pretty dang good. We got a lot of games that were going to significantly affect the playoff picture, and yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about that. A lot of games that are going to significantly affect the playoff picture, and there were a couple games that just really didn't give a shit about. But that's how it is this late in the game. So looking at the playoff, my playoff watch on what was going to happen in terms of scenarios, all that good stuff from this past week. The teams that were already eliminated, as most of us know by now, were the New York Giants, the Arizona Cardinals, the New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, of all teams, surprisingly, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Miami Dolphins. I hope you all got that in that speed running style. So, that being said, the teams that could be eliminated this past week, going into week number 16, were the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. The teams that have already put in their stamp into the playoffs were the Denver Broncos and the LA Rams. And who was able to join them this week, entering this past week? Well, those teams were the Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, the Buffalo Bills, the LA Chargers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New England Patriots, and my San Francisco 49ers. And who could also punch in their ticket and clinch the division? The Philadelphia Eagles. And a team that already got in, but also could clinch their division, the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos also had an opportunity to get home field advantage in the AFC playoffs, but would need a lot of help on that front. But hey, you never know what could have happened in the NFL. And this time of year, especially in the second most important time of the year, with all the spirits in the time of giving or the time of stealing. Oh no, I don't steal, kids. Don't steal. I highly against stealing, unless you're using cheat codes in a video game. That's fine. But no, don't steal. Don't steal at all. That's bad for you. So let's get into the past week that was week number 16. A very I'd say good week 16, which kicked off with a highly anticipated Thursday night football game, only for that Jeff Bezos money of $15.99 a month, pal, as we got a highly anticipated rematch between the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams in Seattle. This was a week 11 rematch that saw the Rams beat the Seahawks 21-19 in LA. But this time, the script was flipped this time, as the Seahawks rallied back from a 16-point fourth quarter deficit to send the game in an extra period. And Sam Darnold answered the call of, he wasn't going to suck this time around. He answered Puka Nakua's long touchdown catch with the goal line touchdown of his own to Jackson Smith, the Jigba. And they decided not to tie it, but put some balls to the wall and get the game-winning 2-point conversion to Eric Saubert. Yes, two former 49ers, Sam Darnold and Eric Saubert, combined to win this one 38-37 in overtime. And man, this was a really fun game. 16-point fourth quarter, and the Seahawks, who were not doing well in this one, they managed to climb back and stun their division rivals to make this NFC West oh so wide open again. For the LA Rams, like they had this game in complete control. Stafford and company, they were doing anything and everything that they wanted to do on Seattle's defense. Not so much like they did last time around, but they're pretty much doing everything at will as they took that 16-point lead. But in 3 of their 4 losses this year, they forgot there were 4 quarters. They forgot there were 4 full quarters of football. Where was the offense in the 4th quarter? The special teams melted down, allowing that punt return touchdown. The thick kicker that they signed recently. He missed his first extra point in crunch time. And then the defense allowed one of the most unusual 2-point conversions that sent the game in overtime. And then, Seattle would win that game in overtime on another 2-point conversion. So, this game was winnable for the Rams, but they choked it away. They choked it away. And when you look at how the Rams lost a large majority of these games, these were games that they should have won. The first one was against the Eagles, where they could have won that game, but they squandered a lead. And then, they got the game-winning field goal blocked in return for a touchdown. They lost to the practice squad 49ers at home. They overlooked the Panthers and looked how that turned out. And now they choked away this lead to the Seahawks. And they just simply couldn't close the deal on all 4 of those teams. And also in these losses, it exposed their biggest flaws, which were the secondary. And with Devontae Adams out, the over-reliance on Puka Nacua. Let's be honest here. Where was their other guy, Tutu Atwell? Was he out too? With an injury that I haven't really heard of. But this was not the loss they needed, man. Because when you look at it now, they're going to need serious help from the opposition of the Hawks and all of a sudden the 49ers if they want to get not just the NFC West back, but the top seed back. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Seahawks, on the other hand, it looked like it was for much of this game, it looked like it was going to be more of the same from Sam Darnold from that Week 11 meltdown and on and off times leading up to this game. But Rashid Shaheed, that punt return touchdown was exactly what the Hawks needed to light a fire in their butts. Not just for Sam Darnold, but for the whole team. But Sam Darnold, he answered the call with that JSN touchdown. But also Kenneth Walker too. Credit to him because the running game hasn't exactly been the Seahawks strength for the last couple weeks. Actually, it's been a really big weakness, and hence why the Seahawks offense has been very inconsistent since that game. But nonetheless, Kenneth Walker III finally had a really big game in this win, while the defense shut down the Rams offense the rest of the way after in the 4th quarter. As we talked about for pretty much in most of this recap of this game, the multiple 2-point plays, including the game winner, and now they control the NFC West. All they got to do is win out, or either have the Rams or the 49ers drop one more game, and the NFC West is theirs. But they still got ways to go. And what I mean by ways to go is that they're going to go as far as Sam Darnold takes them, especially with the red-hot 49ers team on their tail for as depleted as they are. So now looking at the Saturday. Yes, I said Saturday slate of games. Starting with the Philadelphia Eagles going to the nation's capital to take on the Washington Commanders in their first of 2 final meetings of the year. And Saquon Barkley ran through the Commanders with 2 second-half touchdowns to break open the Eagles' second straight NFC East title and breaking that 20-year-long curse of back and forth, switching around NFC East titles. Now, the Eagles are back-to-back NFC East champions 28-17 in a win over Washington. And when you look at this team, this Eagles offense, they seem to be rounding back into better form as the playoffs near. Regardless, yes, in fairness, it was playing against the Commanders, but hey, you gotta take them what you give it to them. But I do have to address the elephant in the room. Not to be all negative Nancy here. There is one major issue with this team, and that is Jake Elliott. He has been struggling a good amount this season. Not as bad as last season, but this season has not been kind to Jake Elliott either. This particular game was no different. 2 straight missed field goals, and this one, and he's missed the last couple in the previous games as well. So they've said they're not going to replace Jake Elliott right away, and probably for the best, given that the playoffs are just like right then and there. Unless Jake Elliott continues to do really, really so bad that Nick Sirianni is like desperate to get another kicker. But at this rate, we're gonna get one. So I say like probably in the offseason that Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman probably should look into getting another kicker, but right now is not the time. So yeah, I mean the rest of the team seems to be doing fine, but they do have a kicker problem. But hey, they're going back to the playoffs, and they will get a home game. Now it's just a matter of where are they going to be seated. That's the thing. Meanwhile, for the Commanders, they did have the potential of upsetting the Eagles on that Week 16 Saturday night, but they let that slip away thanks to injuries. Again, injury mania running wild in the nation's capital, to Marcus Mariota, Laramie Tunzel, and a bunch of others, along with turnovers from their backup, Josh Johnson. Yes, Josh Johnson's still there in the league, pal. As with the Eagles began to break away from this game with the win, as has been the theme, along with injuries this season. Uncontrolled frustrations began to mount again with Javon Kinlaw and Quay Morin instigating a bench-clearing fight towards the end of the game after Saquon's game-sealing touchdown. So, yeah, you got this big fight instigated between these two, which got both of them ejected, and who knows, they might either get fined, suspended, or both. Either one or both. So, yeah, it was another one of those games where, yeah, the Commanders are just ready to get this brutally disappointing season over with. Meanwhile, in the other Saturday game, you had the Chicago Bears take on the Green Bay Packers in a immediate rematch. Yes, I say immediate because these two teams just met 2 weeks ago down in Lambeau, where the Packers beat the Bears so closely, 28-21 in Lambeau. But this time around, the Bears rallied back from a 16-6 hole late in the fourth quarter, very quickly, mind you, to force the extra period, where Caleb Williams threw a bomb to DJ Moore to win an improbable payback win, 22-16 in overtime. And man, this was another really good nationally televised game on a Saturday night, mind you. Like, you had the Thursday night game and a Saturday night game where 2 games went the distance, and what in those games I consider, like, I don't know, it's up to debate. Like, both of them like were games of the year. Like, it's up there for like games, and I say like with an S. Like, I don't know if you could say like there's an undisputable game of the year, because these two are probably like really good. But if you're a Packers fan, then not so good, because let's give credit where it's due, though. First, Malik Willis played very well in relief of Jordan Love, who left with a concussion. He killed the Bears defensively, and yeah, Willis was like very ready to play. He, outside of watching a 4th down snap in overtime, he was making a lot of plays, slicing up that Bears defense nearly the rest of the way, and delivered a touchdown strike to Romeo Doubs. So Malik Willis played very well. But that defense, though, that shut down Caleb Williams in the offense, it stopped doing that in the fourth quarter. And it allowed the Bears to cut the lead to 7 before Romeo Doubs botched the onside kick. Does that sound familiar, Packers fans? Yeah. Botched onside kick. So, yeah. So that was the trigger point for the Bears to take command the rest of the way, take the game in overtime. And, yeah, the Packers collapsed even further in that game. And Caleb Williams, threw that moon ball to DJ Moore to beat them. Ouch. Again, does that sound familiar, Packers fans, to something that happened 10 years ago in Seattle? So, depends on what happens with the Bears going forward. It seems like, the Packers are once again going to be stuck as a 7 seed once again, thanks to this all-time choke. Ouch. Meanwhile, for the Bears, you gotta give credit where it's due. The offense was playing very lethargic for most of this game, but the onside kick gave them a sudden adrenaline in their souls. Something Cody Rhodes for them to put on another fourth quarter comeback. Williams was very decisive and dicing that Packers defense very late in the game, using his mobility, making very nice strikes downfield. And he found a rookie, Jahadae Walker, for the game tying score. And then that, again, the nice deep ball to DJ Moore for the game winning one. So, this Bears team really making some nice wins here. And they really need this one after just coming up really short against the Packers down in Green Bay. And in one of the best games of the year, this whole team didn't give up, unlike John Cena. And it earned themselves another big time win that will help them in their playoff run. So, all there's left to do is go get the division so you can earn yourself a home playoff game. So, speaking of divisions, there were a few division games that meant something, like this one, starting in the early morning portion of a Sunday slate. The Carolina Panthers took on the Tampa Bay Bucks in a critical game that both teams needed to have. Ryan Fitzgerald gave the Panthers the go-ahead field goal before Lathan Ransom got the game-winning interception as Baker Mayfield to get the first of 2 games for the Carolina Panthers for the NFC South, 23-20. And you look at it from the Bucks POV, man. I guess Todd Bowles' rant from last week's loss to Atlanta, well, it initially rang through this team. They were very aggressive early on. They got the opening drive touchdown via Mike Evans, but from there, they still looked very out of sync for a lot of it. Baker Mayfield didn't exactly play a good game in this one, and they wasted a lot of drives, mostly because, again, Baker Mayfield was not in tune with his receivers, including that game-losing one. And he and Mike Evans were not on the same page with that one. So you can also say that too with the Panthers, they were on and off. But the Bucks played just as bad, if not worse. It was like a game that nobody wanted to win. Let's be honest. And the Bucks, they poorly executed this game, and they're continuing down this month-long skid, and they're gonna hear it again from Todd Bowles. Meanwhile, for the Carolina Panthers, well, he wasn't the sole reason Carolina lost last week to the Saints. He did redeem himself in one of the major as being one of the major players to win this game. And I'm talking about Lathan Ransom. He was the hero that Carolina needed with the game-winning pick on Baker Mayfield to seal this win. And I get it, Panthers fans. The talk will be around Bryce Young and how he needs to improve his game and how he did so good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. But here on this podcast, I will give talk to Lathan Ransom because of how he was doing all this stupid penalties on Tyler's show. But here, he made up for it. He atoned for that mistake by getting the game-winning interception on Baker Mayfield to get an all-important victory for the NFC South, at least one step closer to it. Meanwhile, down in Cleveland, the Buffalo Bills took on the Cleveland Browns as James Cook gashed the Browns for 2 touchdowns to help the Bills get an ugly one, 23-20. Why exactly was it an ugly one? Well, because that defense allowed over 160 rushing yards to both Shadur Sanders and Quinshon Judkins before Judkins left the game with a brutally bad leg injury. And hopefully Judkins will rehab very well. Speed recovery to him. And hopefully he'll be good to go for next season. So, yeah, that's very unfortunate after such a promising season from him. And in general, the going back to the Bills, they let the skid marks hang around for far too long because, well, they've just been so inconsistent in just overall defensively, whether it's like pass coverage, tackling, you name it. And this was on a day where Josh Allen wasn't playing very well. They were just at least fortunate that James Cook saved their asses. But when they return home for their final 2 games, they can't afford that, especially when their first of last 2 opponents is a resurging Eagles offense. Good luck with that. Meanwhile, for the Browns, Shadur, he looked well on the opening drive, even tossed up a touchdown to give the team an early advantage, but he unfortunately couldn't carry that good momentum towards the rest of the game. Because even with some nice variety range balls, he still made some bad mistakes again, like 2 interceptions, a back-breaking intentional grounding, which luckily wasn't a safety for him, and a sack that took the Browns out of field goal range very late in the game. So it was another one of those 50-50 games for Shadur that we've seen since taking over for the starting role. So Shadur has 2 games left to try to prove himself as a long-term answer for Cleveland, but right now, as we're seeing in this last month, I mean, still got a lot left to prove if he wants to do that. Otherwise, yeah, the skid marks will have to look again at the drawing board for a quarterback, as has been the long, never-ending story for this skid mark franchise. Meanwhile, down in Jerry's world, the Dallas Cowboys hosted the LA Chargers as Justin Herbert threw 2 rainbow touchdowns to Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey, while also running for one for himself before the Chargers turned a shootout in the first half into a shutout in the second half, 34-17. But yeah, Big Jim's Chargers, their squad continues to overcome their O-line adversity with the fact that they lost another O-lineman in the first half or somewhere in the game. But Justin Herbert and the Chargers still stayed strong. They went pound per pound with Dallas before eventually dominating the second half with the stout defensive showing. And yeah, this was one of the Chargers' best wins all season with 2 games left to go. So yeah, good stuff from a team-wide perspective. But it's worth noting that they'll be down a key player for the rest of the way for these final 2 games because, well, Denzel Perryman got suspended for his reckless tackling, apparently. And yeah, the NFL was like, no, you can't have that. You can't be doing that, pal. So yeah, he got suspended for the last 2 games of the year, which could be a major concern or mild, depending on how it affects the defense. But either way, not good for the Chargers defense either way. Even for the Cowboys, they were already eliminated from playoff contention a day prior when the Eagles won the NFC East. So, yeah, the Dak in the offense, you got to make the most out of something, right? They got to put on a good showing for these last 3 games. They did well at first to make a dent in the Chargers' own playoff status, but unfortunately, the second half, they didn't do anything of note other than make 3 straight turnovers. But not helping them was a defense that allowed Justin Herbert to torch them at will and score 20 unanswered points in their second half. Yeah, when your defense can't do anything and the offense can't do anything either, that's not ideal, pal. So, I mean, you pretty much have the offense set, but then, well, George Pickens, who should be a priority in trying to keep him in Dallas. But defensively, it needs a lot of work. Like the secondary should be a heavy priority for Jerry Jones with how much of a weakness that's been, and along with, Deron Bland, who has been a standout 2 years ago, but a year prior, but he's missed a lot of time this year. So they need to address how weak this secondary has been all season, and so it can get a lot of help for that front seven. Meanwhile, down in the Big Hard, the New Orleans Saints took on the New York Jets as Chris Olave caught 2 touchdowns from Tyler Show and Taysom Hill as the Saints jet through the Jets 29-6. I don't have much else to say about the Jets, other than, well, I guess Aaron Glenn's seat's getting warm now again, because, man, and that's kind of disappointing or not disappointing to say. I don't know. I just thought a month ago that, I thought Aaron Glenn would have gotten at least one more season. Maybe he still gets one more season after this, because, Aaron Glenn was taking his job much more seriously than, the meme-tastic first month of the NFL year for 2025. But then fast forward to, the Jets' first win of the year. He has his guys playing much more hard despite the large talent deficit. But then now you fast forward to this point. It's not translating despite, having his guys fight and play hard. Just not translating to wins, or at least not translating to close games. Due to the severe talent deficit, or maybe just tanking design. So it's clear that the Jets are again going to reset on all facets in the offseason, but maybe perhaps Aaron Glenn might be part of that reset too by being ousted after just one season. Meanwhile, for the New Orleans Saints on their rebuilding end, perhaps Kellen Moore and Tyler Show might have just, were lurking around and found this small ass shadow band podcast that's called Very Cold Lasagna, because they've been on a heater for the last couple of weeks. Sure, it was against a shit Jets defense, overall team, but Tyler Show, he's continued to outweigh his rookie mistakes with some good throws to supporting cast who have responded in kind to their second round, third round, fourth round, whatever round he was a rookie. So for now, hold me wrong with this guy, but he's been playing some decent to solid, good football. I still think, though, they should bring at least one quarterback to compete with him in the offseason. But, he's at least making his case to try and be at least a season-long starter next year. Meanwhile, down in the big blue side of the Meadowlands, the New York Giants took on the Minnesota Vikings in a low-scoring tank ball, pal, that saw Will Reichard kick the go-ahead field goal with 4 minutes left to go for Andrew Van Ginkel sacked Jackson Dart on the Giants' last down, 16-13 in a win for the Vikes. But unfortunately for the Vikes, J.J. McCarthy went down with another injury, a hand injury, mind you. And this should have the Vikings thinking about some options here going into the offseason. So don't get me wrong, this last 2 weeks have been encouraging, much more encouraging than the last most of this season for not just for the fans and the team brass, but having JJ McCarthy leave a game with another injury, his 4th overall this season, is not exactly great. It's not great when you look at his long-term outlook. So, the Vikings should consider getting him not long-term, but at least some backup in the case that, he keeps getting hurt. For the Giants, like, people are starting to point blame at Jackson Dart himself because of his decline in improv play or his bad decision making or the combination of both. I don't know. And that's fair to criticize because he has made some pretty bad decisions, and you are seeing the lack of improvisation and the lack of him leaving the pocket a lot more than we have seen since it's been getting hit a lot. But also not helping him is that ding dong, the lack of overall talent around him. Let's not forget that, people. But also at the same time, too, it could also be by design from the higher ups around him, the coaching staff, the front office. This is just to protect him because let's remember, this is a team that was the very first one eliminated from playoff contention. So with how they are constructed currently, what exactly is there to play for? This team, with how it's constructed, they don't have any pride. They don't have any pride in the big, sad blue side of the Meadowlands. So having him take way too many unnecessary risks, which he's already been doing, by the way, and he was also out for a period of time with a concussion. Yeah, I would, if I were the Giants, yeah, do exactly what you're doing. Yeah, keep bubble wrapping Jackson Dart. And if you want to criticize Jackson Dart himself, then I mean, yeah, at least do it reasonably. But at least I could kind of see the optics behind it. Meanwhile, down in Tennessee, the Titans take on the Kansas City Chiefs as Cam Ward and the Titans pouring on in the second half with many explosive plays to hammer the Chiefs 26-9. And what has been a sad, pathetic showing from the Chiefs. But more importantly, what happened in this game with a particular injury, as if losing one quarterback to a season-ending injury wasn't enough. How about losing the backup to injury, to an injury as well? Now, initially, it looked like Gardner Minshew tore his ACL too in the second quarter, but he was very fortunate, and good thing because nobody wants to wish upon injuries. He suffered a very bad bone bruise that will still have him on season-ending IR, which sucks. But unfortunately, Andy Reid is left with his third stringer by the name of Chris Oladokun. Regardless, so Andy Reid is stuck with this third stringer now in what has become officially a losing season for the Chiefs and a very, very poor season for Kansas City. So at this rate, you might as well shut down pretty much everybody that is starting. And I know some people are going to say, oh, Travis Kelce might be playing in his final home game of the year this coming week on Christmas. Sure, let him play on that one, but then bubble wrap him for the final game in Las Vegas. Yeah, pretty much bubble wrap almost all, if not all, the starters at this rate, because do you want to have any more of your players get seriously hurt in this cursed ass season? Do ya? Anyway, for the Tennessee Titans, there's always been some silver linings even in this very shitty season. But in the last month or so, it really hasn't equated to wins. But that changed on Sunday when Cam Ward was scorching this Chiefs top 10 defense, which in their grand scheme of things, in fairness with how their own season has been, that has been kind of a net positive for them. But yeah, Cam Ward was very explosive on this past Sunday against that Chiefs defense, while also playing another clean game. And interim coach Mike McCoy got a little creative too with his calls. So when you look at the Titans team, there's still plenty of needs, and a lot of needs that needs to be addressed this offseason. But I do like that results are finally showing from Cam Ward The running game and the offensive line also did surprisingly good against this Chiefs team. So again, still playing to work on, but I'm glad that at least some results are finally showing. Meanwhile, down in the Miami Gardens, the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Dolphins, and it was the Chase Brown show down in South Beach, with the running back leading the blowout with 3 touchdowns in a 45-21 smashing of the Dolphins. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, man, what could have been in 2025? When you look at how this team played in this game, Joe Burrow and the offense were lights out in this one. Burrow throwing darts to T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and having a 4 touchdown outing overall before getting to rest in the fourth quarter. The defense, which is still an offseason priority and should be the main offseason priority, they made some key turnovers as well and limited the Dolphins to just 21 points, which is half of what the Bengals scored, by the way. But yeah, it also seems like they might have found a running game in Chase Brown. So, man, just makes you wonder if they had a competent defense, if Joe Burrow was fully healthy this season. What if? What if the Bengals were able to stay healthy, have a very competent defense, and compete in this AFC North? Meanwhile, for the Miami Dolphins, and Quentin Edwards were starting this game because the Dolphins were pulling a 2023 Russell Wilson card on Tua Tagovailoa. He started off well for himself in the first half, and even had Miami in the lead at halftime, but then he threw 2 picks. The last one was way too far from his receiver and was stopped on a QB sneak on 4th and 1. But yeah, Edwards will get another chance next week against Tampa Bay. Yeah, basically because Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins don't want to put in Tua anymore because we all know what's going to happen in the offseason. Meanwhile, starting in the afternoon late slate of games, as the Falcons took on the Arizona Cardinals in the desert, Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts had another field day with touchdowns apiece from Kirk Cousins to fly away from the Cards 26-19. And just like with the Bengals, this is another what if performance. Yeah, there's another performance that defined a what if season. When you look at how Bijan Robinson played, another big day from him, both rushing and receiving, very effective. Even if it was like yards after a catch kind of plays from Kirk Cousins. But yeah, Kirk in the offense had one of their few best performances off a disappointing year. And this was even on a day where Drake London, in his return, he had a quiet outing, but he still nicely contributed when he could. And Kyle Pitts, he followed up his best outing since his rookie year, and with another. He didn't let that linger. He didn't go back to his very quiet ways. No, he continued to. He actually built on that with another strong performance in the desert. So when you look at the Falcons, you think of, had Pitts shown up sooner, and had Michael Penix Jr. continue to improve and stayed healthy, I think the Falcons would have stayed in this NFC South hunt with the Panthers and the Bucks. And I don't have much else to say about the Arizona Cardinals. Just get these last 2 games over with and fire Jonathan Gannon. And also fired Terry Fontenot, or whoever the Cardinals general manager is. Nothing more, nothing less. Less said, the better. Now, down in the Mile High, the Jacksonville Jaguars took on the Denver Broncos in one of those other big AFC games to determine seeding and overall AFC playoff implications. Trevor Lawrence put on a heater. He torched the Broncos defense with 4 total touchdowns in a statement upset by the Jags, 34-20. And my golly Wally, the Jaguars, after a slow start, Trevor Lawrence in the offense, they found their mojo with a lot of big throws and scored on most of their drives before the fourth quarter. Lawrence played probably his best game all year with those big throws, but more importantly, he played smart with the ball, which Liam Cohen heavily emphasized for much of the year in his pressers, and it came he did that in the previous games in December. He did it in the most important game of the year for the Jags, other than probably the Chiefs game. But this was like way more important than that, because that was so early in the year. But yeah, case in point. The defense also kept Bo Nix at bay for more than half of this game, tightly covering all of his weapons and turning his offense away on fourth downs. So when you look at this Jaguars team, they have won 6 straight. They have done it impressively for more than half of them. Yeah, they are establishing themselves as a serious, deep playoff contender. Like, they're getting hot at the right time. Meanwhile, for the Denver Broncos, they're usually a stout team, but they just ran into a wall Sunday. With Denver's usually good defense, they got torched by Lawrence's continually good December. And unfortunately, Bo Nix just overthought one too many throws, which led to a bevy of errors. That included a bad fumble in the third quarter where he was handing it off to RJ Harvey, but I don't know if it was for a play action or like, I don't know. He badly timed the handoff to him. Either way, that was like a big mental error that led the game getting pulled away from Denver. So mental lapses, it happened to Denver like again, but Denver's offense has been very up and down all season, and they have to bounce back quick because the Patriots and now the Jaguars are again on their tail. And for them to clinch the AFC West and keep a hold of the AFC overall, they need to win these last 2 games and look good in them. Meanwhile, in the Motor City, we had the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Detroit Lions. Jaylen Warren blew past the Lions in the fourth quarter for 2 rushing touchdowns before their defense had to put together a goal line stand from Jared Goff and his offense to win 29-24. And man, a few times this season, it seemed like Aaron Rodgers and the offense, they looked to finally generate some good consistency, only to regress back into a slump after 2 games. But December, as with some of these teams, it always looks like a good time to get hot, get right. And that turns out to be the case with the Steelers offense. It has flowed much better thanks to Aaron Rodgers spreading it around, not trying to force feed it too much to DK Metcalf or some other receiver. No, he's spreading the ball around instead of force feeding it to a particular person. And now there's a run game going again. Jaylen Warren is back, being the capable back that he is, especially in this game. And when he broke out in the fourth quarter, and now they're one step closer to the AFC North. They can get it next week, but the more important question is, can they maintain this play, especially on offense? If they can make it, and if they do make it to the playoffs, if they maintain their hold on the AFC North, can they maintain this play past one playoff game in that playoff game and win a playoff game? Meanwhile, for the Detroit Lions, they were very flat for most of this game, including Jared Goff taking a terrible safety in the third quarter. They barely did anything in that third quarter overall, and the running game, the duo of Gibbs and Montgomery, this game was a symbolism of how much that duo has regressed this season. So they've all that combined that this is basically like a very flat showing. But they finally got to go in the fourth quarter, but their defense just made it harder on them to try and come back. And Amon-Ra St. Brown committed pass interference on his potentially game-winning touchdown. And when he tried to make up for it, he got stopped very short of the goal line. And there was another pass interference penalty that pretty much sealed the deal. So they made a lot of mistakes in this game. The offense was flat for most of it. The defense couldn't get any stops. And they also had more injuries in this one. And yeah, that was pretty much just has been the story for these Lions. And combined is a similar story like this in another loss. It just pretty much sealed their trip to Cancun. Meanwhile, down in Houston, the Texans took on the Las Vegas Raiders. CJ Stroud found Dalton Schultz for the Texans' only offensive touchdown before they had to get a key third down to hold off a feisty Ashton Jeanty and the Raiders, 23-21, in a game that shouldn't even been particularly close. Let's be honest with you. But I will say this about the Raiders, and this will probably be one of my very few positives about this dang team. Jeanty finally got the breakout game that he was looking for, consistently gashing the usually stout Texans defense. That included a big touchdown run. Two. He got two big touchdown runs in this game. Two big touchdowns in general, but the big touchdown run he got late in the game that got the team within two. This was a big performance by him. It's just unfortunate that the Raiders defense couldn't get a stop late in the game. So yeah, while it didn't equate to a win for the Raiders, but maybe whenever Mark Davis and his minority group and whoever's gonna be his GM, if it's gonna be John Spytek the offseason still, maybe if they can get a really decent O-line, maybe Jeanty can continue to build on this big game for the final two games and going into the offseason. Meanwhile, for the Texans, CJ Stroud was again massively inconsistent against a really bad defense, even with the go-ahead touchdown. Stroud was still missing receivers. He's trying to force feed Nico Collins. I still have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about this offense. And yes, the defense, we're missing key players too in this game, but this is a perfect opportunity for this offense. And while they did it last game against Arizona, why was it that this game against the Raiders, one of the worst teams in the league, along with the Giants, how is it that they were struggling? How is it that they were struggling against the Raiders? CJ Stroud should be buying whatever car, whatever that Kaimi Fairbairn or Derek Stingley likes for Christmas, because they bailed him out. They bailed him in the offense out. But at some point in these last two games, when it's nut busting time, and when the Texans get a playoff spot in these last two games, CJ Stroud's got to wake up. He really needs to finally awaken. Then we had the Sunday Night Football game, which involved the New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens. Drake May and Ramondre Stevenson each found the end zone to rally the Patriots back in the fourth quarter and back into the postseason for the first time since 2021, beating the Ravens 28-24. The Patriots, the points were hard to come by for May in the offense until they rallied back in the fourth quarter, with May decisively moving this team, and his receivers were making defenders miss, in contrast to the three quarters beforehand. So it was a contrast to the week before at home against the Bills. So yeah, maybe this was what they needed. This is what they needed from last week's choke to wake them up. But also don't discount the defensive effort, because they limited the Ravens' offensive opportunities in the final minutes. While in fairness, it was against Tyler Huntley in replacement of Lamar Jackson. But they also did force a fumble on Zay Flowers on their last possession. So yeah, this is still kind of a rebound win for the Patriots, and especially now that they got a playoff berth, and now they look to get a home playoff game if they can get the AFC East. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Ravens, they came in hot out of the gate, scoring on the opening drive, and even when Lamar left with a back injury in the second quarter, which is still something to monitor for the Ravens in these last two games, Tyler Huntley again kept the ship somewhat steady to give the Ravens a 24-13 lead, and Derrick Henry had one of his much better games throughout. But they couldn't close the deal on both ends, and especially given the fact that John Harbaugh and Todd Monken stopped using Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter. Like they for whatever reason, they didn't just want to use him. Like I don't know why. I still don't get it. Like 3 days later, I just don't get it. And then they lost the lead and they had a chance to retake it, and then Zay Flowers just got peanut punched on their last drive. This was a game that they needed to have, but they didn't do enough to seal the deal. They had a chance, but they choked it away. And now here they stand, going to Green Bay on the Saturday after Christmas, and they don't control their own destiny. They don't control their playoff hopes, because if they lose to Green Bay or the Steelers beat the skid marks on Sunday, well, none of those things are guaranteed. Either way, whatever happens this past week, whether the Ravens lose or the Steelers beat the skid marks, the Ravens are done. The Ravens are done from playoff contention. Meanwhile, the Monday Night Football game from this past week, to wrap up our lengthy Week 16 review, my San Francisco 49ers went to Indy to take on the Colts. Brock Purdy, man, he put on a heater. A 5-touchdown heater specifically, before D. Winters made the game-winning pick 6 on Uncle Philip Rivers, to pull away from the Colts 48-27. And for as great as Purdy played on Monday night, and I really got to commend him for that. Man, he had to really light it up and answer the call, because this defense is so dog shit. And this was freaking Philip Rivers, a 44-year-old grandpa with his whole 10 kid sperm semen filled skybox filled family up there. And this defense, embarrassment of a defense, couldn't stop Philip Rivers. They couldn't stop Philip Rivers. And all credit to Philip Rivers for playing his ass off, coming out of retirement and playing like the way he did. But this defense couldn't stop Philip Rivers. This defense couldn't generate a pass rush other than a few times, which were clutch, by the way, when they did. But they allowed that offense to move with ease for most of it. They were missing their science again regularly. Oh my God. I'm gonna have so much. I still have so much to say when we talk in the next episode in more in depth about this game. So I'm gonna save it for that. Man, if I thought the Colts defensively, with the 49ers defense, if that was bad, they're gonna face an even bigger. They're gonna be an even bigger liability against playoff teams. One of which is they're gonna be facing this coming week in the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, for the Indianapolis Colts, Uncle Phil, man, Uncle Philip Rivers. Last week it was not surprising that he was rusty in his first game in 5 years. But this game, even though he was playing against my team and slicing up my 49er defense easily, it was still fun to watch him. But as that same game went on and Purdy and the offense kept jacking up the scoreboard, Rivers eventually couldn't keep up. His noodle arm couldn't keep up. He was underthrowing balls, and then he underthrew the game-losing pick 6. Man, the free fall for the Colts once promising season continues, and now they're on the brink of likely playoff elimination. So Shane Steichen has a decision to make as Jaguars come in for the Week 14 rematch that saw Daniel Jones tear his Achilles. And do they start Philip Rivers? Do they start Riley Leonard? They're probably going to start Philip Rivers, but either way, the Colts' once promising season is likely done in the next 2 weeks, whether it be against Jacksonville or against Houston. So now let's look at the winners and losers from this past week. starting with my winners, the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up to Denver and beat the Broncos in the fashion that they did, lighting up that Denver defense. Watch out, AFC. The Jaguars are getting hot at the right time. The Chicago Bears coming back from a 16-6 hole very late in the game, taking a chance on an onside kick, and Caleb Williams throwing a moon ball to DJ Moore to win that game in overtime, in a game that the Packers fans will have PTSD from in similar fashion to the NFC Championship game in Seattle. And then my 49ers quarterback, Brock Purdy, putting on a heater on Monday night, like he was on a mission, like a super technician with 5 touchdowns. And yeah, he helped the Niners pull away with a big win in their first of a very important 3-game stretch. Now on to the losers, the LA Rams and the Green Bay Packers. They had a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter, and they inexplicably gave it away in one of the most brutal fashions, especially the Packers. Like, they choked it very, very hard. The Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, yes, I get it. Like, they are in a currently losing situation. They lost Patrick Mahomes for the season, but the downfall of how they are currently right now without Mahomes, it exposed a lot of things. The lack of a receiving core, the lack of a true receiving core. The secondary is pretty dog poor. The offensive line, not great. There's a lot of things that they have to fix. And the Baltimore Ravens, they also had a near 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they couldn't close out the deal. And Zay Flowers made a backbreaking mistake when the Ravens were trying to recapture the lead. And now their playoff hopes are pretty much dead. They're pretty much dead. And then, yeah, those are my winners and losers in week number 16 as we head on into the second to last week of the regular season. And yeah, it's going to be a Christmas, post-Christmas time for the NFL. And man, what even is this Christmas slate? This triple header on Christmas. It was initially promising when the schedule came out, but boy, it does not look great anymore. It literally does not look great. It starts off with the Cowboys and Commanders, but both teams already eliminated, and the Commanders are going to be either trotting out Josh Johnson or some other quarterback, apparently. Lions and Vikings. JJ McCarthy's probably not going to play with the hand injury, and regardless if Detroit wins, they're basically done too. And then the Broncos and the Chiefs. Obviously, we know the Chiefs are done, but the Broncos are the only team. the team, they're the only team that has something to play for. So yeah, the Chiefs just have to hope that another quarterback doesn't get a significant injury at this point. But hey, the rest of the slate does look pretty promising, though. The Saturday doubleheader, you see the Chargers take on the Texans for playoff positioning. Yeah, that'll be a big factor for the AFC wildcard picture, like in terms of where they'll go for their division leaders. While the Packers look to keep its spot alive in clinching the 7th seed, and they take on the Ravens in a desperation playoff elimination game for them. Meanwhile, you have Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen do battle in Orchard Park in a potential Super Bowl preview, but at least one of them for a variety of them. And then you have my San Francisco 49ers hosting the Bears in probably one of the biggest Sunday night football games of the season that has major NFC playoff implications as the Niners chase the number 1 seed and the NFC West, while the Bears look to wrap up the NFC North and also trying to make a claim on the NFC's top seed. So a lot at stake in this Sunday night game coming up in week number 17. And then who could forget? Probably one of the biggest games in week number 17 that the great Kevin Harlan gets to call the game for down in Las Vegas. It's the super duper tight ball. Ow. Between the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders. That's going down in Vegas. Yeah. we're going to do a super duper tank bowl to determine who gets the first overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Who's going to out tank the other pal? Who's going to really suck so hard that they're going to lose and be the winner and get the number 1 overall pick in Pittsburgh next April. We'll find out soon enough in the super duper tank bowl in Las Vegas. So, yeah, that'll be coming up in week number 17. And yeah, I feel like this coming week is going to be one of the biggest, I'd say biggest in terms of playoff positioning and with this super duper tank bowl draft positioning of the season. I mean, with the exception of the Christmas Day games, which is not great exactly, but everything else for most of these for almost half of these games, it should be really good. And then we get on to week 18. And that's when the real action will kick in as the playoff spots start to get solidified and the drama for the end of the regular season will pick up. So let me know your thoughts on week number 16, how your team did or didn't do this past week as the regular season starts to wind down with its final 2 weeks, and we head into week number 17, a Christmas-filled week number 17, and we get closer to New Year's. So that's going to do it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. This has been episode number 314 of this icy yet spicy podcast. And as always, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge. And happy holidays to you all, whether you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Not sure if the other two have passed already, but either way, happy holidays to you all from me, Dylan Lasagna, and the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. And until I see you, when I see you in the next episode, peace out.